In the heart of Denver, Liam Bennett has everything: wealth, power, a skyline built by his own hand. But in his vast, echoing mansion, silence is his only company. That is, until one snowy night changes everything. 12-year-old Sophie, soaked from the blizzard, stumbles into his life with a delivery bag and a dropped birth certificate. Liam's name is listed as the father. Shocked, he's thrust into memories of Aspen, of Rachel, the woman he once loved and lost to ambition. As Sophie and her twin brother Max struggle to support their ailing mother, Rachel, Liam sees a painful truth. He's the father they never knew. Guilt crashes in. Letters Rachel once sent were blocked by his assistant. Now Rachel is dying, and her children are barely holding on. Liam steps in, moving them into his home, discovering Sophie's gift for design, Max's love of photography. Just as healing begins, Rachel's greedy cousin Greg tries to claim custody. Now Liam must fight, not just for the twins, but for redemption, for love lost and almost forgotten. In the courtroom, at their kitchen table, in a warm new restaurant called Hearth and Home, one dropped paper becomes the start of everything. Will Rachel recover? Can Liam prove he's more than a name on a certificate? Subscribe now to see this heartfelt journey unfold. Snowflakes drifted like whispers across the Denver skyline, painting Liam Bennett's glass windows in soft frost. Inside the towering mansion, silence reigned. No laughter echoed through the marble halls. No lights flickered from upstairs bedrooms. Just the low hum of a fireplace and the lonely clink of crystal as Liam poured himself a second glass of scotch. At 44, Liam had everything, at least on paper. Bennett Development owned half the luxury towers in Denver. His name graced the covers of business magazines. But as he stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring into the winter storm, his reflection looked back like a stranger. He hadn't spoken to his sister in years. His parents were long gone, and the only calls he received now were from brokers, lawyers, or journalists. His life was lined with polished stone and empty rooms. The doorbell rang. He frowned. It was nearly 9. Who would come out in this blizzard? He hesitated, then walked toward the massive oak doors. When he opened them, a blast of wind hit his face, followed by a small, bundled figure. A girl, no older than 12, stood trembling on the threshold. She wore a red beanie pulled low over her ears and gripped a brown paper bag stamped with a takeout logo. "Delivery for Mr. Bennett?" she said, shivering. "Prepaid." He blinked. "You came out in this storm?" "We needed the tip," she muttered, holding out the bag. He took it, glancing past her to the snow-covered steps. "Do you have a ride?" "My brother's waiting around the corner. He's got a bike." Liam's brows drew together. "That's dangerous." The girl didn't respond. Instead, as she fumbled for something in her pocket, a folded paper slipped from her hand and fluttered to the floor, landing face up. He stooped to grab it. A birth certificate. His eyes scanned the text and froze. Name of father: Liam Christopher Bennett. His fingers trembled. "Where did you get this?" His voice came out harsher than he meant. The girl's eyes widened. It's mine. I didn't mean to drop it. What's your name?" "Sophie," she whispered. "Sophie Martin." Liam stared at her. Her nose was red from the cold. Her hair, dark and damp under the hat, framed a face that felt familiar. His heart thudded. "Martin?" he repeated, stunned. "Your mother, is she Rachel Martin?" Sophie nodded slowly, confused. You knew her? Liam stepped back, gripping the paper like it might vanish. A long time ago. 12 years, to be exact. Aspen. A quiet cabin under starlight. Rachel had laughed in the snow, her cheeks pink, her eyes bright. They'd promised to meet again. He'd said he'd call. But work devoured his time. His assistant said she'd tried to reach him, but never passed along the messages. Sophie looked up at him. Can I go now? My brother's waiting. He snapped out of the fog. Wait, just a second. He pulled out his phone. Where's your mother now? She hesitated. At home. She's sick. Liam's voice softened. How sick? Sophie bit her lip. She has trouble breathing. Max and I do all the deliveries now. Max is your brother? She nodded. He's my twin. A twin? Of course. He took a shaky breath. Do you live far? About 2 miles, in the flats near Colfax. Liam looked out into the storm. That's too far in this weather. I'll drive you. No, she said quickly. My mom says not to talk to strangers. He knelt so they were eye level. You're right. That's smart. But tell your mom Liam Bennett wants to see her. Please, it's important. Sophie hesitated, then took the birth certificate from his hand, tucking it carefully into her coat. I'll tell her. As she turned and disappeared into the night, Liam stood motionless, the takeout bag growing cold in his hand. Behind him, the fireplace flickered. And in his pocket he slipped something he hadn't seen in years, a worn photograph of Rachel smiling in the snow. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one inside his chest. Snow piled higher along the edges of Liam's driveway as he stood in the foyer, staring at the door Sophie had disappeared through. The house felt colder now, not from the storm outside, but from the sudden weight of a truth he didn't know how to carry. He walked back into the living room, the takeout bag forgotten on the counter. Instead, he pulled open a drawer beneath the staircase and rummaged through the old photo boxes. He wasn't sure what he was looking for until he found it. A Polaroid. Rachel, wrapped in a cream scarf, laughing in the snow. Aspen, 12 years ago. The way she'd looked at him then, like he was more than a rising name on a real estate report, came rushing back. His phone buzzed. It was a message from his assistant. Reminder, 8 a.m., meeting with zoning board. He stared at it, thumb hovering, then deleted the reminder. Instead, he opened a rideshare app and typed in an address, Colfax Flats. He didn't know if it was smart, but he knew one thing. He couldn't unsee that birth certificate. Couldn't forget Sophie's eyes. Eyes that looked like his. 10 minutes later, he was in the back of a black SUV, rolling through Denver's quieter streets. Snow blurred the windshield as they passed dimly lit storefronts and shuttered apartment buildings. The driver spoke. Sure you want this address, sir? I'm sure. They pulled up outside a rundown complex with cracked steps and crooked mailboxes. Lights flickered inside the hallway. No one answered the buzz, so Liam climbed the stairs, listening to the hum of a heater straining in the distance. On the 3rd floor, he stopped in front of apartment 3C. The door was slightly ajar. He knocked. Who is it? A boy's voice asked sharply. It's Liam Bennett. I spoke to Sophie. The door opened wider. A boy, same age, same dark eyes, stood holding a large plastic spatula, as if ready to defend their home. His cheeks were flushed from the cold. I'm Max, he said cautiously. Liam smiled gently. You're her brother. Max didn't return the smile. My mom's sleeping. She's tired a lot. Can I speak to her? Max hesitated, then stepped aside. You can wait, but don't make her upset. Liam stepped inside. The apartment was dim, warm, but cluttered. A small space heater hummed in the corner. On the wall, drawings were taped. Floor plans, buildings, scribbles done in color pencil. One showed a large house with a sunroom and stick figures in the yard, a girl, a boy, and a tall man in a suit. Liam stared at it. Max noticed. Sophie drew that, said maybe one day we'll live there. In the bedroom, a raspy voice called, "Max, who's here?" Max ran in. "A man. Says he knows you. Liam something." Silence. Then, "Tell him to come in." Liam stepped slowly into the narrow room. Rachel lay propped against some pillows, pale but unmistakably her. Her once rich auburn hair was thinner now, her breathing shallow. Her eyes widened. "Liam?" He nodded, emotion catching in his throat. "It's been a long time." She tried to sit up. 12 years. You never told me." She gave a soft laugh, dry and tired. "I tried. I sent letters, called your office. My assistant never said anything. She thought I wanted money. I only wanted you to know." Liam sat in the chair beside her bed. "I would have come, Rachel. I would have been there." Her eyes filled. "I stopped trying after the twins turned 5. You were always so far away." He looked toward the kitchen. "They're incredible kids. They had to be." There was a long pause. Then Liam pulled the folded birth certificate from his coat. "Is this real?" Rachel nodded. "I put your name on it. I thought one day they might want to know." Liam's fingers tightened on the paper. "They're not just your kids," she added softly. "They're your second chance." Outside, the snow kept falling, but inside something warmer had begun to stir. A door, once sealed by silence, had opened again. Liam stood at the apartment window, watching snow coat the parking lot below. In the background, Rachel's shallow breaths echoed against the silence. She had drifted off to sleep, her chest rising unevenly, her face pale but calm. Max had curled up in the corner with a comic book. Sophie, arms crossed, stood by her drawings taped on the fridge. "You really didn't know?" she asked quietly. Liam turned to her. "No. I swear, Sophie, if I had, I would have come." She studied him, uncertain. "Mom cried a lot when letters came back. She told us not to hate you." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I never saw the letters." Sophie glanced at a small wooden box on the counter. She kept them all, even the ones that came back unopened. Liam reached for it, gently lifting the lid. Inside, dozens of envelopes, creased, yellowing, each one addressed to him. His name written in familiar handwriting. Some had returned to sender stamps. His chest tightened. A small piece of folded paper sat at the bottom. A sketch. A snowy cabin. A man and woman holding hands under pine trees. It was Rachel's, from Aspen. He held it like it was made of glass. "She kept this?" Sophie nodded. "She said that was the only weekend she ever felt truly seen." Liam looked down. The memory came back in fragments. Her laughter echoing in the pines, their hands brushing near a fireplace, her head resting on his shoulder as snow piled outside. They had made pancakes and talked about everything but work. He had felt free, human. But the next Monday, calls poured in. His firm landed a major contract. He left Aspen early, promising to return. He never did. "I was selfish," he said softly. "I let everything else come first." Max peeked up from the couch. "Can you help her now?" Liam met his eyes. "I'll do everything I can." That night, Liam didn't return to his mansion. Instead, he slept on the lumpy couch in the twins' living room. At dawn, he quietly ordered breakfast and paid off 2 months of overdue rent without saying a word. When Rachel woke coughing, he was already dialing his private physician. By mid-morning, they were in an ambulance headed to a private facility. The medical team greeted them at the doors of St. Elizabeth's, one of Denver's best hospitals. Rachel was placed on oxygen and scheduled for full scans. Liam stayed by her side, holding her hand while the twins waited outside. Later, as Rachel rested in a warm room with clean sheets and soft lighting, Liam stepped into the hallway and sat beside Sophie and Max. "I want you two to stay with me," he said, "at my home, just while your mom's getting better." Sophie's jaw clenched. She wouldn't want charity. "It's not charity," he said gently. "You're my children." Max whispered, "You have a big house?" Liam smiled faintly. "Too big for one person." The twins exchanged a glance. Sophie finally said, "Kay, but only if Mom says yes." That evening, Rachel gave a weak nod from her bed. "They need stability. If you're really in this, Liam, prove it." He looked her in the eyes. "I will." Before they left, Max tugged Liam's sleeve. "Wait." He ran into the waiting room and returned with a piece of paper, a new sketch. This time, 3 people stood together in front of a house with tall windows. The words scrawled at the bottom said, "Maybe home is someone." Liam swallowed hard. He folded the drawing carefully and tucked it into his coat pocket, next to Rachel's sketch from Aspen. This time, he wouldn't walk away. The black SUV pulled up to Liam's mansion just past sunset, its headlights cutting through the mist still rising from the melted snow. Sophie and Max sat silently in the back seat, eyes wide, backpacks clutched tightly in their laps. Liam glanced at them. "It's not as cold inside," he said softly, "and there's hot cocoa waiting." The gates creaked open, revealing the long circular driveway. The house stood at the end, tall, modern, almost too perfect. Max whispered, "Looks like a museum." Sophie didn't answer. Her jaw was tight. She stared at the tall windows like she was preparing for battle. Inside, the warmth was immediate. The housekeeper, Maria, greeted them with a kind smile and 2 mugs of steaming cocoa all ready in hand. Liam bent down. "Maria's been with me for years. She's practically family." Maria handed Max a mug. "You must be the brave delivery boy." Max blinked. "You know?" She smiled. "Liam told me everything." Sophie took her cup but said nothing. Her gaze landed on the grand staircase, the chandelier above it casting stars across the ceiling. For a second, her eyes softened. "Do we stay in rooms like that?" "You each get your own," Liam replied. "Unless you'd rather share." Max turned to his sister. "Can we? Just for tonight?" Sophie nodded. They were shown to a bright guest suite overlooking the garden. The room smelled of lavender and clean linen. On the desk were colored pencils and 2 sketch pads, one blank, one already open. Sophie approached it. Inside was a pencil drawing, a small cabin beneath snowy trees, with 2 names scribbled underneath in Liam's neat handwriting. Aspen, 2011. Rachel and Liam. Sophie touched the page gently. "You drew this?" "I tried to copy one she gave me," Liam said from the doorway. "I thought you might want a sketch too." Sophie looked up. "I used to draw houses on delivery napkins." Liam smiled. "I still sketch floor plans when I can't sleep." Max poked at the camera placed beside the lamp. "Is this real?" "It's yours," Liam said. "If you want it. I figured out pretty quickly. Your eyes light up when you see good lighting." Max beamed. "I always wanted a real one, not a phone camera." Sophie narrowed her eyes. "You're not trying to buy us, are you?" Liam's voice turned serious. "No, I'm just trying to know you and make up for lost time." That night, Liam sat in the study, flipping through Sophie's napkin sketches she'd tucked in her backpack. Rough lines, crooked windows, but creativity bursting from the page. One was labeled "Dream House with Sun Porch." Another showed a woman in bed, 2 kids bringing soup. It was signed for Mom. The next morning, Liam took them on a short drive through one of his newer properties, an urban redevelopment project near the Art District. Sophie pointed. That building's too close to the sidewalk. Liam chuckled. You noticed? It blocks the afternoon sun from the next house. That'd kill a garden. He raised an eyebrow. Not many 12-year-olds know that. I read design books at the library, she said quietly. Later that afternoon, Max snapped photos from the balcony, catching the golden hour light hitting the frost-covered hedges. Liam watched as the boy adjusted settings carefully, then grinned when a squirrel darted into frame. Click. I'm gonna show these to Mom, Max said proudly. She likes when I bring her sky pictures. As the sun set, the house felt less like a museum and more like a home. In the hallway near the stairs, Sophie pinned her latest sketch, a modern cottage with wide windows and flower boxes, to a corkboard Liam had installed earlier. When he passed by, she said, It's not perfect. He studied it closely. No, but it has warmth. She glanced at him, curious. Why do you care so much now? Liam hesitated. Then he reached into his coat and unfolded the crayon drawing Max had given him at the hospital. 3 people in front of a house. Beneath it, the words, Maybe home is someone. I think I finally understand what that means, Liam said. And, for the first time, Sophie smiled. Liam stood by Rachel's hospital bed holding a vase of fresh tulips. Her room at St. Elizabeth's was bright and quiet, sunlight warming the pale blue sheets. Machines beeped softly beside her, oxygen flowing gently through the tubes under her nose. Her eyes fluttered open as he placed the flowers on the windowsill. You brought spring inside, she whispered, voice raspy but laced with a small smile. I figured you were tired of snow, Liam replied, pulling the chair closer. These were Sophie's idea. Rachel turned her head slowly. How is she? And Max? They're settling in, he said. Max hasn't put that camera down since we got home. Sophie. She's tougher, but she drew a whole blueprint yesterday. A real one, with notes. Rachel's eyes gleamed. I told her to never let go of that sketchbook. Liam hesitated, then reached into his coat pocket. He unfolded a napkin, yellowed and creased. On it, a house was drawn in crayon. She gave me this on her first night, said it's what she wants to build someday. Rachel reached for it, tears welling. She drew that for me last year. She never let me throw it away. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of unspoken years pressing gently between them. Rachel, Liam said softly, I didn't know about any of it. The twins, you being sick, I would have come sooner. She nodded slowly. I believe you, but I sent letters, over and over. I never saw them. His jaw clenched. I asked my assistant this morning. She said she threw them away. Rachel blinked. What? She thought you were asking for money, told me I was being protected. I fired her the moment I found out. Rachel looked away, her eyes filling again. I wasn't asking for anything, Liam. I wanted you to know them, to know we existed. He leaned forward. I know now, and I'm not leaving again. A soft knock broke the stillness. Sophie peeked in holding a sketch pad. Max trailed behind her with his camera. Can we come in? Sophie asked. Rachel brightened instantly. Of course. The twins rushed to her side. Max grinned and held up his screen. Look, Mom, I got the sky turning pink over Dad's balcony. Sophie rolled her eyes. It's just dusk. It's pretty, Max insisted. Rachel chuckled, then turned to Liam. Did he call you Dad? Liam smiled, surprised. I think so. Sophie opened her sketch pad and handed it to Rachel. I designed a studio for you, with a big window, for when you get better. Rachel stared at the detailed pencil lines, labeled shelves, a daybed, soft lighting. This is beautiful. It's for later, Sophie added quickly. Not now. You need rest. Liam watched the scene, heart swelling and aching at once. He stood and stepped aside, letting them have space. Then he walked quietly into the hallway exhaling slowly. He had missed so much. Later that night, as they returned to the mansion, Liam pulled into the driveway and paused before the garage. He turned to the twins. "How about a project?" Max perked up. "What kind?" Liam smiled. "There's an old room near the sunroom. I was going to turn it into storage, but I think it should be yours now. A place for ideas." Sophie tilted her head. "Like an art studio?" "Exactly. One wall for drawings, one for photography. I'll build the shelves if you design them." Max grinned. "Can I put a darkroom corner?" "Absolutely." That night, the room began to transform. The twins carried in their supplies. Liam found Rachel's napkin drawing and pinned it above the doorway, a reminder, a promise. As Liam turned off the light, he looked back once more. The sketch, faded and childlike, read in Sophie's small handwriting, "Our house, someday." Now, it wasn't just a dream. It was a beginning. Liam stood at the hospital entrance, phone pressed to his ear, voice low and tense. "I need the original letters, the ones Rachel sent. Every single one." On the other end, his former assistant stammered, I didn't think they were important. She didn't seem credible." He clenched his jaw. "She was the mother of my children." Silence. "I want everything in writing," Liam continued, "and be prepared to testify. If Greg pushes this, I'll need proof of what you did." I'll cooperate," she said quickly. "I'm sorry." He ended the call and stared out at the street, his breath fogging in the cold air. The betrayal stung deeper than he expected, not just because of the letters, but because someone else decided what he deserved to know, what they deserved. Inside, Rachel sat up in bed, sketching in a small notebook. Sophie sat nearby, coloring a new blueprint with markers. Max scrolled through photos on his camera, picking the best ones to show her. Liam stepped into the room, trying to shake off the anger. Rachel looked up. "Everything okay?" "I spoke to her," he said. "My assistant. She admitted she tossed the letters. She thought she was doing me a favor." Rachel gave a sad smile. "People protect power, even when it doesn't need protecting." "I'm going to make this right," Liam said, "even if it's one step at a time." Later that afternoon, Liam took Sophie and Max to his office downtown. Tall glass towers, the heart of his empire. He showed them his personal conference room, where a massive map of Denver hung on the wall. Each pin marked a project he'd built. Max pointed. "You did that park with the waterfall?" Liam nodded. "That was one of my favorites." Sophie tilted her head. "But you didn't build anything in our neighborhood." Liam looked down. "No, I didn't." Sophie turned back to the window. "It would have been nice. Maybe someone would have fixed the sidewalks." Max tugged Liam's sleeve. "Do you still have that napkin sketch I gave you?" Liam smiled and pulled it from his wallet, carefully unfolded. "Right here." Sophie stepped closer. "You kept it?" He looked at her. "It's a reminder." "Of what?" she asked. "That I missed too much already," he said, "and I don't want to miss what comes next." That evening, back at the house, Liam received an email that made his stomach turn. Greg. Subject, custody. The message was short and sharp. Rachel's unfit. You're new. I'm blood. See you in court. Liam closed the laptop slowly, jaw tightening. He called Rachel. "He's coming after the kids," she sighed. "I figured. He's always sniffed around when things get hard. I won't let him win. He'll bring up the years you weren't there," she warned. "I'll bring the years I will be," Liam said. That night, he sat with Sophie and Max in the new studio. The walls were half covered now. Sophie's evolving house designs lined one side, Max's printed photos on the other. They were building something, together. "Can you teach me how to design a kitchen island?" Sophie asked, kneeling beside him with her sketch pad. He nodded. First rule, function before fancy. Where do you want the fridge? She laughed. Far from the stove. Mom always bumped into it. Max held up his camera. Say cheese. The flash popped. Liam blinked. That better not end up online. Nope, Max said proudly. It's going in the trust book. Liam looked confused. The what? Sophie held up a thick notebook labeled in purple marker. Trust book. It's for things we want to remember, she said. Only real stuff, not fake smiles. Liam stared at the title, his throat tightening. Then he nodded slowly. Put me on the first page. Outside, the wind picked up again, but inside the trust book began, line by honest line. The morning sunlight poured through the studio windows, casting golden streaks across Sophie's sketchpad. Liam leaned in, sipping coffee as she outlined a small porch with French doors. Functional, he said, nodding, and inviting. Sophie smirked. Mom always wanted a porch swing. She'll have one, Liam replied. Promise. Down the hall, Max printed photos from the night before. City lights reflecting in puddles, the quiet magic of Denver at dusk. Rachel, still at the hospital, had asked for new photos every day. Liam checked his phone. 2 missed calls, one from his attorney, one from Rachel's cousin, Greg. He tapped a voice message. Greg's voice played, smug and clipped. Nice little fairy tale you've built, but the court doesn't care about promises or sketchpads. Blood counts, and I'm family. You're just a stranger who showed up late. Liam's jaw tensed. He deleted the message and opened the door to the studio. Kids, he said gently, can we talk? Max looked up from the printer. Is it about Greg? Liam blinked. How did you know? Sophie stood slowly. He called our old house, left a message on the machine, said he was coming for us. Max stepped closer. He's not nice, Dad. He yelled at Mom once, made her cry. Liam knelt to meet their eyes. Listen to me. No one is taking you anywhere. I don't care what he says. We're going to fight this. Together. Sophie studied his face. Even if he's family? Liam hesitated. Family isn't just who you share blood with. It's who shows up and stays. That afternoon, Liam visited Rachel. Her cheeks had more color, her voice steadier. Greg's threatening court, he said plainly. Rachel sighed, eyes closing for a moment. He always wanted control. When my mom died, he tried to claim her house, said he'd take care of it, sold it in a week. He's after the kids now. I'll write a notarized statement, Rachel said, sitting up straighter. And I have a DNA test I kept for them. I never mailed it. Where is it? At the apartment, in my nightstand drawer, top drawer, under the scarf. Liam nodded. I'll get it tonight. Rachel looked at him for a long moment. You're really not walking away again. He reached for her hand. Never again. Later, Liam returned to the twins' old apartment with Max. They climbed the creaky stairs quietly. The unit was still untouched, cold and dim. Max led the way to the bedroom. This one, he whispered. Liam opened the drawer. There it was, an envelope sealed and marked. DNA results. For Liam. Next to it was a photo, Rachel holding 2 newborns, both bundled in hospital blankets. Their eyes closed, their faces peaceful. Liam took the envelope and the photo, his heart aching. Max looked around. It feels smaller now. Liam placed a hand on his shoulder. Because you've grown. That night, at home, the kids sat at the kitchen island. Maria served grilled cheese and tomato soup. Liam stepped in with a new manila folder. Official stuff? Sophie asked. Liam smiled. The start of it. He opened it. Inside were Rachel's notarized statement and the DNA results, but next to those, 2 blank adoption forms. Sophie blinked. What are those? If... When the time is right, Liam said, voice soft, I'd like to make it official. Max whispered, like, forever? Liam nodded. Only if you want that. Sophie stared at the paper, then at him. You really mean it? He pulled something from his jacket, Max's trust book. He opened it and pointed to page 1, where the kids had written, Maybe home is someone. Below it, in Liam's careful handwriting, he'd added, and someone means never leaving again. Sophie smiled for real this time. Max whispered, Put that on page 2. Saturday morning light spilled into the creative studio, catching dust motes mid-air as Sophie leaned over her latest drawing. Her brows furrowed in concentration as she sketched the slope of a roof, then paused to erase a corner and start again. Max sat cross-legged on the floor, flipping through a new photography magazine Liam had brought home the night before. Beside him, a stack of freshly printed photos waited, portraits of Rachel, still in the hospital, smiling despite the oxygen tubes. Liam entered quietly, holding 3 mugs of hot chocolate. Break time, he announced. Sophie looked up, pencil still in hand. I'm not done yet. Liam placed her mug beside her. That roof line can wait. Architects need fuel. Max sniffed his cocoa. You added cinnamon this time. Liam grinned. Don't tell Maria. She claims it's her secret trick. Sophie finally set down her pencil and stretched. I'm designing a recovery center for people like Mom, with gardens and natural light. Liam sat beside her nodding. That's beautiful. She flipped the sketchpad to show him. And this? This is a sculpture garden. People walk through it when they feel heavy. Max chimed in. She drew one statue holding a cracked heart. Liam's eyes softened. That's powerful. It's called mending, Sophie whispered. He placed a hand on her shoulder. You're telling stories with walls and space. Just then, the doorbell rang. Liam frowned, stood, and headed for the front. A courier stood on the doorstep, holding an envelope. Mr. Bennett? Yes? From the district court. Urgent delivery. Liam took the envelope, heart tightening. He opened it right there. Inside, a formal petition from Greg. He was filing for emergency custody, claiming Rachel was unfit and that Liam's paternity had only been proven recently, giving Greg precedent as extended family. Liam's hands curled into fists. Back inside, he handed the envelope to Maria. Please scan this for the lawyer. Max peeked into the hallway. Was that bad news? Liam knelt to meet his eyes. We're going to protect this family, but it means things might get messy for a while. Sophie stepped forward. We're not scared. That afternoon, Liam took the kids to one of his development sites, an unfinished strip of land near downtown. Snow lined the edges, but the center had thawed enough to walk. This is where your recovery center could go, Liam said, handing Sophie a clipboard. Her eyes lit up. Seriously? You design it. I'll fund it, Max tugged on his coat. Can it have a photo gallery inside, for Hope Pictures? Liam laughed. You're hired as creative director. Sophie looked up. What if Greg wins? Liam paused, voice steady. Then we fight harder. That evening, the 3 of them sat around the kitchen island. Sophie taped her drawing of mending to the fridge. Max stuck a photo beside it. Rachel in bed, hand raised in a peace sign. Underneath, in bold Sharpie, Sophie wrote, Healing happens here. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, Liam sat by the fireplace, flipping through Rachel's old sketchbook. He found a half-finished design, dated 12 years ago. It showed a cabin surrounded by trees and a small garden filled with sculpture pedestals. She had written one word at the bottom: future. Liam traced it with his finger, then closed the book. He picked up his phone and called his attorney. "We're not just fighting for custody," he said. "We're fighting for her dream, too." The fire crackled beside him, the warmth of it stretching out into the quiet house. And above the mantel, the first photo the twins ever gave him sat in a wooden frame. Max had titled it, "The Beginning of Us." Liam stood at the courthouse steps, coat buttoned high against the wind. In his hand was a worn leather folder. Inside it, Rachel's notarized statement, the DNA test results, and every drawing and photo the kids had made since they'd come home. Greg's SUV pulled up. He stepped out in a crisp gray suit, sunglasses on despite the overcast sky. He smirked as he approached. "Hope you brought more than kids' art," Greg said. "This judge isn't sentimental." Liam didn't flinch. "I brought the truth." Inside the courtroom, Sophie and Max sat on a bench outside the main doors with Maria, their faces anxious. Sophie clutched the trust book against her chest. In the courtroom, the judge, a stern woman in her 60s, flipped through the custody filings. Greg's lawyer spoke first. "Your Honor, Mr. Montgomery has been present in the twins' lives since birth. He is Rachel Walsh's closest living relative. Mr. Bennett, however, has only recently asserted paternity." Liam's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, we have DNA confirmation of paternity, notarized statements from the mother supporting Mr. Bennett's custody, and character affidavits from both the hospital staff and school principal." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Bennett, do you have anything to add?" Liam rose, calm but clear. "I didn't know about the twins for 12 years, not by choice. Their mother tried to tell me. My assistant, without my knowledge, discarded her letters. But the moment I found out, I changed everything. I've been caring for Sophie and Max since the day they stepped into my home." Greg cut in, voice sharp. "This isn't about feelings, it's about stability. You're a developer, always traveling. I have roots here." Liam turned toward the judge again. "I've built skyscrapers, but none of them matter like those two kids. We've created a home together, and more than that, we've started building dreams. My daughter's designing recovery centers. My son photographs life like it's poetry. They're thriving." He paused, then held up a single drawing, Sophie's sculpture garden design. "This was drawn last week. She calls it mending. It's not just a place. It's a reflection of what we're doing together." The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Montgomery, do you have a relationship with the children?" Greg shrugged. "They know me. I visited a few birthdays. Have you provided financial support?" "No," Greg admitted. "Rachel didn't want my help." The judge tapped her gavel gently once. "I will review the documents and render a decision by week's end. Until then, temporary custody remains with Mr. Bennett." As court adjourned, Liam stepped out into the hallway where Sophie and Max waited. Sophie stood immediately. "How bad was it?" Liam smiled. "We held our ground." Max clutched the camera strap around his neck. "Can we go see Mom now?" "Absolutely," Liam said. "But first, one stop." He took them back to the empty lot downtown. The ground was muddy from thawed snow. Liam handed Sophie a copy of her drawing and pulled out spray paint cans. "This is your space," he said. "Mark it." Sophie hesitated, then took the blue can. She bent down and sprayed the word "mending" across a wooden board staked into the ground. Max added a red heart beside it. Liam stood behind them, arms crossed, proud. Later that night, back home, Sophie tucked the trust book into a drawer beside her bed. "Dad?" she whispered as he turned to leave the room. He paused. "Yeah?" "Even if the judge says no, we'll fight, right?" He walked back, kissed her forehead gently. We already are. And in the quiet of the hallway, beside the family photo pinned to the wall, Liam taped Sophie's drawing of the sculpture garden next to Max's photo of her holding it. Together, they were building something stronger than blood. They were building belief. The wind had picked up again outside Liam's office, brushing snowflakes across the tall windows. Inside, the walls were lined with legal files. Rachel's medical reports, the twins' school records, notarized letters, DNA results, but Liam's eyes stayed fixed on the envelope in his hand. Inside was the judge's notice. Final custody hearing set for next Friday. He turned to his lawyer, Dana Grant, a sharp, composed woman in her 40s. "We've done our part," she said, tapping the edge of the folder, "but Greg's lawyer just subpoenaed Rachel's high school records. He's trying to paint a picture." Liam frowned. Of what? That she was unstable, skipped school, got into fights? That was 25 years ago, Liam snapped. Dana didn't blink. Family court looks at patterns. Liam leaned forward, voice low. Then they'll see mine. A man who came back, built a life, and never stopped showing up. Across town, Max adjusted the lighting in the studio for his latest photo. Rachel's empty chair, with her scarf draped across the back. He clicked the shutter once, twice, then stepped back. Sophie watched quietly from the doorway. "Why that one?" Max shrugged. "Because she's not gone, just healing." Sophie walked over and knelt beside him. She'd like that. Later that afternoon, the three of them returned to the hospital. Rachel was stronger now, propped up by pillows, her voice steadier than it had been in weeks. "They're trying to dig into your past," Liam told her gently. "We may need more documentation." Rachel chuckled, dry but warm. "Tell them I got into fights protecting my best friend from bullies, and that I skipped school to take care of my grandmother with dementia. Let them print that." He smiled. "I will." She took his hand. "But Liam, if something happens to me, they need to know I chose you. I trust you, not just for the kids, for the life we were supposed to have." He nodded, throat thick. "We'll show them." Back at home, Liam gathered the twins at the dining table. He pulled out a sleek black binder labeled Case File. Sophie traced her finger across it. "This is for court?" "Yes, but this—" He opened the binder to reveal pages of photos, sketches, handwritten notes. "This isn't about just legal arguments. It's about your truth." Max pointed. "That's the trust book picture." Liam nodded. "We're using it. And the garden sketch. And the sculpture named Mending. The judge needs to see what kind of life we're building." Sophie's voice was small. "What if it's not enough?" Liam reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a brass key on a chain. "This," he said, holding it up, "is to the empty building downtown. The one we're going to turn into something amazing. And today, I registered it in your names. Sophie and Max Bennett." Their eyes widened. Sophie whispered, "You mean it?" "It's your future," he said, "and we're going to fight for it, as a family." That night, Liam couldn't sleep. He walked into the studio and found Max asleep on the couch, camera clutched to his chest. Sophie had left a new drawing taped to the wall. It was a house, not a mansion. Just a warm, welcoming house with a porch swing and 4 stick figures standing out front. Too tall, too small. Underneath, she'd written, "A place to return to, always." Liam stared at it for a long time, then pulled out his phone. He texted Dana, "Tomorrow, we add this drawing to the evidence. It's not just paper, it's proof." The wind howled outside, but inside the house there was warmth and intention and quiet resolve. The fight wasn't over, but love had already laid its foundation. The courtroom buzzed with quiet tension as Liam entered, flanked by Dana and carrying a folder marked Family First. Max had taken the morning off from school. Sophie sat beside Maria in the gallery, the trust book tucked tightly in her lap. Greg stood near his attorney, all polished edges and smug confidence. He barely looked at the kids. The judge entered, her presence commanding. She glanced at the clock, then addressed the room. "We're here to finalize custody of Sophie and Max Walsh. Let's begin." Greg's lawyer launched first. "Your Honor, while we acknowledge Mr. Bennett's recent involvement, our case rests on precedents. Mr. Montgomery has proximity, family ties, and a history, albeit limited, of contact. He seeks only what's best for his cousin's children." Dana rose smoothly. "Your Honor, what's best for these children isn't proximity. It's stability. It's love. It's the home they've known these past months, a home with their biological father, who's fought for them since the moment he discovered their existence." The judge nodded. "Mr. Bennett, do you have anything to add before I hear the witness?" Liam stood. "Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to call a surprise witness, Mrs. Evelyn Monroe." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Greg stiffened. Evelyn, Liam's former assistant, entered from the side door. Her hands trembled slightly as she raised her right hand and swore in. "Mrs. Monroe," Dana said, "can you explain your prior role?" "I was Mr. Bennett's executive assistant for 6 years. And during that time, did you receive any letters from a Rachel Walsh?" Evelyn's eyes lowered. "Yes? Multiple?" Dana paused. "What did you do with them?" I discarded them. I thought she was after his money. I never told him." The judge leaned forward. "And why are you here now?" "Because I saw them at the art studio," Evelyn said, voice cracking. "Sophie was showing Max her drawings, and Mr. Bennett just watched them like a father. I knew then I'd made a mistake." Greg's lawyer objected. "This is hearsay." The judge raised a hand. "It's character testimony. Continue." Dana nodded. "Thank you, Mrs. Monroe." Liam returned to the stand with one final folder. "I have here," he said, "Rachel's notarized statement confirming my paternity, her trust in me as a parent, and a medical directive requesting I make decisions on her behalf." He passed it forward. The judge read it silently, then looked at Sophie. "Sophie," she said gently, "would you like to say anything?" The girl stood slowly, her voice steady. "I used to draw houses with no doors," she said, "because I didn't think anyone was coming for us. But now I draw windows and gardens and dads who come home." She opened the trust book and held it high. "This is proof. He didn't leave us. He never knew. But when he found out, he stayed." Tears glimmered across the room. The judge folded her hands. "I've seen many custody battles. Rarely do they carry this much heart. The facts, the statements, the testimony, they all point to one thing." She smiled gently. "Sophie and Max, you belong with your father." Greg exploded. "This is ridiculous. I'm family." The judge's voice turned firm. "Family isn't blood alone. It's action. It's showing up. You may step down, Mr. Montgomery." As the gavel struck, Sophie turned to Liam. "Did we win?" He knelt and hugged them both tightly. "No," he whispered. "We just got started." Outside the courtroom, reporters waited. Liam shielded the twins with his coat, but Sophie held her head high. Max clutched his camera and snapped a photo of Liam holding the custody papers. Later that night, they framed it. Underneath, Max wrote one word: ours. Snow melted in slushy puddles along the Denver sidewalks as winter gave way to spring. Liam stood at the kitchen counter pouring orange juice into 3 mismatched cups. Sophie sat cross-legged on a stool, sketchbook open, tongue tucked between her teeth. Max crouched nearby, fiddling with the settings on his camera, focused on capturing the sunlit window pane. "Do you think she'll like it?" Sophie asked, not looking up from her drawing. Liam leaned over her shoulder. "She'll love it. It's exactly how you remembered the cabin." She smiled, lightly shading the roof. "And I put flowers in the window. Daisies, like the ones she used to buy from the corner stand. Just then, the doorbell rang. Liam opened it to find Dr. Renner standing there, clipboard in hand and a cautious smile on his face. "She's responding well," he said. "Stronger than expected. I think she's ready for light walks and short visits, maybe even more with the right support." Liam exhaled. "Thank you." That evening, they bundled up and took the twins to the hospital. Rachel was sitting up, eyes brighter, her voice clearer. "I've got 2 days left here," she said, grinning. "Then rehab for a month. After that, who knows?" Max reached into his backpack and pulled out a framed photo, the three of them standing in front of the courthouse, Liam's arms around them. "We got this printed for you." Rachel's eyes welled up. "And I made something too," Sophie whispered, handing her a folded sheet of paper. Rachel opened it slowly. It was a sketch of the new restaurant, a cozy, warm space with hanging lights and a garden out front. On the sign above the door, Sophie had written, "Hearth and Home." Underneath, in careful cursive, "A place to start over." Rachel looked up. "Is this?" Sophie nodded. "It's ours. You're going to be part of it." Liam smiled, his voice soft. "We wanted to open something meaningful, a place where people could feel like family, where stories begin again." Later that night, back at home, the kitchen buzzed with planning. They drafted menus, brainstormed decorations, and decided which of Max's photos would hang on the walls. Sophie tugged Liam's sleeve. "Can we use the birth certificate?" He turned, confused. "Use it how?" "As art," she said, pulling it from her sketchbook. "It's how this all started. It's proof that even in a storm, something good can begin." He stared at it, creased, a little smudged, but still powerful, a symbol of the day everything changed. "Yes," he said finally, "it deserves a place on the wall." By the following week, Rachel had been moved to a rehabilitation suite closer to the restaurant. Every day, Sophie and Max visited, sharing updates and laughter. Liam stayed late one evening, sitting by Rachel's bedside. "I owe you so much," he said quietly, "more than I can ever say." Rachel shook her head. "You showed up. That's more than most ever do." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small silver ring. "I kept this," he said, voice trembling. "From Aspen. I wanted to give it back, but I never had the chance." Rachel took it gently, tears in her eyes. "Maybe," she said, "we keep it for Sophie, for her first place of her own, for when she sketches something that becomes real." They shared a long silence, filled not with regret, but with possibility. As Liam left that night, he paused under the hospital's porch light, the wind gently brushing his face. From his pocket he pulled Sophie's drawing again. In the bottom right corner, she'd signed her name. Underneath, one word was scrawled in pink crayon, "Together." And for the first time in years, Liam Bennett walked home with his heart full of hope, of family, and of the life he'd nearly missed, but now held firmly in both hands. The morning sun bathed the new storefront in a warm, golden hue, glinting off the freshly painted sign that read, "Hearth and Home." A line had already formed, neighbors curious about the little place that had seemed to rise overnight from an old, forgotten bakery. Inside, Sophie smoothed the white tablecloths, then checked the framed birth certificate once more. It hung proudly on the wall beside the front door, nestled between Max's photo of the snowy street where she'd dropped it, and her own pencil sketch of the Aspen cabin where it had all begun. Liam walked out from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. "The quiches are in the oven. Pancakes are next." Sophie grinned. "You're turning into a real chef, Dad." He paused at the word, then smiled back. "Guess I'm learning from the best." Max came in from the back, camera swinging from his neck. "Outdoor seating's good to go, and I got a shot of the sign just as the sun hit it. It looks magical." A quiet knock tapped on the glass. The three turned to see Mrs. Aldridge, their elderly neighbor from down the street. Liam opened the door. "I saw the kids putting up flyers," she said softly. "Thought I'd stop by. Looks beautiful." "Come on in," Liam said warmly. "You're our first official guest." She stepped inside, eyes lingering on the certificate. "That's a bold thing to display." Sophie stepped forward, voice steady. "It's how we found each other. We wanted people to know the truth. This place started with one piece of paper." Max added, "And a whole lot of forgiveness." More customers trickled in. Families, office workers, even a food critic who quietly ordered a cappuccino and scribbled in a notebook. The air buzzed with gentle conversation, cinnamon, and promise. Rachel arrived just before noon, walking slowly but unaided. She wore a light scarf and soft lavender dress, her hair pulled back, cheeks flushed with excitement. The room hushed when she stepped in. Sophie ran to her, hugging her tight. Max stood to the side, eyes misty, then quickly snapped a photo of the embrace. "You made it," Liam said, stepping forward. "I wouldn't have missed it," Rachel whispered. Liam offered his arm. "There's a booth by the window, saved just for you." As they passed the framed certificate, Rachel paused, fingers brushing the glass. Her eyes landed on the name. Father, Liam Bennett. Tears welled up. "You gave it a place of honor," she said. "It gave me my family back," Liam replied. They reached the booth. Rachel sat, her eyes taking in the space, the hand-stitched menus, Max's photography gallery near the kitchen, the sketches pinned to a corkboard labeled Dreams. One drawing caught her eye, a sprawling two-story cottage with a garden and wide porch. She looked up. "Sophie's?" Liam nodded. "We're thinking of building it one day, somewhere nearby, somewhere she can design." Rachel smiled. "You turned a storm into a home." Max walked over, holding a printed photo. "Hey, Mom," he said, "we thought you should have the first photo taken today." He handed it to her. It was a candid shot. Rachel stepping through the doorway, sunlight at her back, Sophie mid-run toward her, arms open. Rachel clutched it to her chest. "It's perfect." That afternoon, hearth and home filled with laughter, the scent of fresh bread, and the sound of new memories being made. People lingered long after eating, drawn in not just by food, but by the warmth that couldn't be faked. Outside, a little chalkboard read, "Every storm has a sunrise. Welcome home." And inside, framed on the wall, that birth certificate glowed softly under the afternoon light, no longer just a document, but the heartbeat of a second chance. The evening sun dipped low over Denver, casting a warm glow across the patio of Hearth and Home. Twinkle lights flickered gently above the tables, and laughter floated through the crisp spring air. Rachel sat with a blanket over her lap, a cup of chamomile tea cradled in her hands. She looked healthier now, color in her cheeks, breath steadier. Her eyes wandered around the restaurant, taking in the joyful chaos, plates clinking, children giggling, Sophie darting back and forth with menus, Max snapping candid photos from behind the counter. She turned to Liam, seated beside her. "I didn't think I'd live to see this." Liam reached over and squeezed her hand. "You gave them everything you could. Now let me give the rest." Rachel smiled, eyes moist. "They've started calling you Dad. I didn't expect that." "I didn't either," Liam whispered. "But every time they say it, it heals something in me." Inside, Sophie was drawing at a booth between orders. She added a porch swing to her sketch of the dream cottage. She looked up as Max approached. "I got a shot of Rachel with the twins and that little boy who spilled syrup earlier," Max said, holding up his camera. "It's kind of perfect." Sophie nodded. "I want to frame it next to the birth certificate." From the kitchen window, Liam called out, "Max! Sophie, come here a second." They both hustled in. Liam stood at the counter with a small box in his hands. I've been saving this for today. He opened it slowly. Inside was a silver key attached to a tiny wooden charm, Rachel's initials carved delicately into it. This, he said, is the key to the house I've been remodeling. It's just outside town. It has a big kitchen, a garden for Rachel, a darkroom for Max, and a drafting table for Sophie. The twins stared. "You're giving it to us?" Sophie asked, voice barely above a whisper. "I'm giving it to us," Liam said, his eyes meeting theirs. "Our home." Max blinked hard. "You didn't have to?" Liam stepped around the counter, kneeling between them. "I wasn't there for the beginning, but I'll be here for everything after. I promise." Sophie wrapped her arms around him. Max followed a second later. From her seat, Rachel watched the embrace, tears quietly slipping down her cheeks. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded, time-worn letter, the first one she'd ever written to Liam, the one that had never reached him. She opened it slowly, letting her eyes trace the lines. "If you ever find this, please don't think I want anything. I just want you to know you have children. Wonderful, bright, loving children." She folded it again, then stood and walked inside. As Liam stood, Rachel handed him the letter. "I think you should keep it now," she said. "You've earned it." He accepted it with trembling hands, then looked to the wall, at the birth certificate, the sketch, Max's photo, a life pieced together from fragments once lost. That night, as the restaurant closed, the family sat around a table eating leftover pie. The windows glowed with warmth. Outside, the sign above the door shimmered under the moonlight. Sophie held her sketch. Max cradled his camera. Liam placed the wooden key on the table next to Rachel's letter. Rachel leaned back in her chair, eyes closed for a moment. "We weathered the storm," she whispered. Liam looked around at them, his family. "No," he said softly. "The storm brought us home."